talk about today is women's suffrage. These gates are important to us because it's here that women marched in the rain and the snow for the right to vote. They were jailed, they were beaten and force-fed, all for a right that now we take for granted.
Before 1920, women were not allowed to vote. They were not allowed to work in some jobs outside the home. If they did have jobs, they were in poor conditions and they weren't paid as much as men. They stood out and held signs so that the White House would listen to them about the importance of women's rights. And Alice Paul was one of the leaders of that movement. She formed the National Women's Party, and it was her tactics that really got the attention of America.
This is an exhibit at Ellis Island about women. If you look at these pictures, it's about the Triangle Waste Company fire. It was a fire where 140 people, mainly young women, died. Many of the doors that led out of the factories were locked. This fire sparked a movement of rights not only for women, but for workers. The idea of workers' rights, fire codes, and the idea that people had a right to work in humane, safe conditions.
So we just got off on the ferry ride from the Statue of Liberty to Ellis Island, and we're here outside of the museum, the Immigration Museum, and exiting the boat, I couldn't help but think, Lisa, about how the immigrants felt coming here. You know, I'm sure they felt a lot more apprehension and excitement too.
Sure.
But
and so many of them were children, didn't speak the language, and just the bravery it showed to come over and start a new life here. We had those same thoughts too as we made our way over.
So we're going to go in now into the museum and learn a lot more about Ellis Island. One question that I've had about immigration during this journey is, you know, at what point did we start legislating immigration? At what point did the rules change? And we just found that right here. It talks about in the early years of American immigration, there wasn't much legislation or regulation of that. If you could make the trip, which was quite treacherous a lot of times, then you could get in. But in the early 19th century, American government started having growing concerns that there would be strain on our country if we didn't start regulating this. A lot of people were coming that had serious illnesses. A lot of them couldn't support themselves, and so they started looking at ways to regulate that. There was a Chinese Exclusion Act in 1882. They were actually excluding certain groups even at that time, and I'm sure they had their reasons. But one thing I love about America is that we have these checks and balances in our government so that we constantly look at what we're doing, look at the regulations that we're putting on different issues and deciding if we need to change those.
It's one of the major tensions in our country today. To what degree do we regulate immigration versus to what degree are we a safe haven and a welcoming place for whoever is in danger and whoever needs a home. And that's something that we struggle with to this day.
In the registry room of Ellis Island. This is the Great Hall that immigrants would come to be examined both physically, medically, and legally. They would go under legal examinations. And once they did that, then they would travel down the stairs of separation.
Many of them at that point took a ferry to New York, others took ferries to New Jersey. Those who were fortunate enough to have family members met at a place called the Kissing Post, where they met their families, but they all began a new life here in America.
Right here.
We're at the Statue of Liberty. This is one of our most important spots on our Liberty pilgrimage. Libby, what are you thinking or feeling right now?
I'm just amazed that we're here. I can't believe that we've come this far, and I'm so excited that we've had the opportunity to visit Lady Liberty herself. We are on this journey learning about liberty and trying to find out exactly what it means for us as Americans, and trying to find out all that our American brothers and sisters have sacrificed to gain liberty. And we're here with a lot of people, as you can see, and we're going to try to talk to some of those people today.
I'm Dana Gray. This is Abby, my daughter. And for me, liberty means just being an American. And I'm so thankful to be here in this country. I've got my mom with me, whose ancestors are from Norway. And I'm just thankful that my great-grandparents trekked over to the United States to be a part of this country, and that I can experience freedom and the opportunities to vote and just love being an American.
My name is Sonia. I'm from Bangladesh, but I live in New York, Brooklyn. Liberty basically means freedom.
Hi, I'm Carolina.
I'm Aroni.
We're from Brazil.
Liberty for us means fighting for what you stand up for, pursuing your goals, basically.
I'm Riza Patel. I'm from Canada, and liberty to me means freedom and opportunity, and just basically having the rights and fulfilling them.
Okay, well, I'm Taquan. I'm from Halifax, Virginia, but now I stay in Richmond. The question was asked, what does the Statue of Liberty mean to me? Well, just being here, being able to see exactly what those who were coming to the United States for, that freedom and liberty, to be able to see the same thing that they saw. They were on their way to Ellis Island and all that. I think it means a lot. It means a lot to be able to see what those who were seeking those things were able to see, to feel that bit of what the United States means and what it stands for, that freedom. That's what it means to me.
We are still at the Statue of Liberty. Behind us is Lower Manhattan and Ground Zero for 9/11. I know it's a day both of us remember well. I was actually at my second year at Jeff State. I taught right through it. I was teaching an English 101 class. And a colleague of mine came in and told me that the United States was under attack. And I didn't know what that meant, because never in my life had I experienced something like that. So this is a holy place for me and Americans, and it just reminds us that liberty is always contested. It's something worth fighting for. It's something that people have given their lives for, and it's just an emotional time to be here, and I'm honored to be here.
One of the awesome things that came out of the Stonewall riots were all the different organizations that were founded for gay and lesbian rights. It really kick-started the movement in America and around the world for gay and lesbian people to fight for equal rights and to fight for their liberty. And we just found out earlier that marking the one-year anniversary of these riots was the first gay pride parade in New York City, and they've been going strong ever since. Absolutely.
So I think it's very important for us as people just to be recognized as something that is legitimate, and just to be, at that point it was so important to fight for something that was not wrong, and just to fight for something that was not wrong. Like, we are not wrong. We are people, and we are just living our lives. And to see those people fighting for something that was so fundamental to me is very important.
I'm Frank McCrory.
I'm Brian Vaughn.
Linda Grooms.
Bart Grooms. When the church began in the fall of 1970, the primary issue that drove the creation of the congregation was racial inclusivity. We began as people who left the First Baptist Church of Birmingham when there was a vote that would have rejected a family, African-American family, a mother and daughter who were applying to become members. When these people rejected, a number of us, including my entire family, basically walked out. And we formed a group called the Company of the Committed. And that ultimately became the Baptist Church of the Covenant. And within a year, or actually within a few months, we had become a congregation.
One of the things that attracted me to the church was that it was racially diverse, it was socioeconomically diverse. We had people that drove past oodles and oodles of Baptist churches just to come to the city center where this congregation decided to commit themselves to.
If I'm getting this right, there has always been the Metropolitan Community Church, which is a church that primarily reaches out to gay and lesbian people. That's been around for a long time. But that's mostly who is there. Mm-hmm. And I think probably what I've understood from some of my dear gay and lesbian brothers and sisters is kind of like, well, I don't live, my family is not all the same, where I go to work is not all the same, all of my neighbors are all the same. Why would I want to have all the same people at church?
It was the first time I was ever able to walk into a room that was labeled sanctuary, and it means just that. I had found sanctuary. I had found safe haven where I could be who God created me to be, with all my blemishes.
I could have gone to the gay church, but I didn't want to go to a gay church because at that time, when you would go, it was like, you're gay and people don't like you and people hate you. I'm like, I know there are people that don't like me because of who I am. And, I said, but I can't do anything about that. I want to be reminded of that when I go to church. I'd rather come somewhere and be fed spiritually. And one of the funny things that still strikes me today is there was an elderly member of the church in one of the groups I was in, and I don't remember exactly what the question was, but she just made the comment, I don't know any gay people. Well, there was another guy and I were in the group, and William just busted out laughing. He goes, you know them, but you just don't know that they're gay. Yeah. And it's like Brian said, I made the comment too, that I often wondered if all of us turned a different color on one day, what people would think.
That diversity makes us stronger because it's so easy to reduce a human being to one fact about them. And whenever we human beings do that, we do violence to people. You're this color, or you're that religion, or you live in this country, or something like that. It's amazing how many of the conflicts of humanity are reducible to, you've committed the mortal sin of not being my cousin. I think that's a very primitive and not very loving and not very wise way of living. So if we're going to embody that as Christians, and I believe we are called to do so, because I think that's in the scripture, these kind of things need to be thrown away or at least de-emphasized.
As America evolves, we watch liberty expand and progress, though at times it is hindered, slowed, and even faces tremendous obstacles and pressures. We as a nation do favor equality and liberty, though unless the very brave who work to make change possible continue and are aided in their endeavors, we may find ourselves facing stagnation and even disappointment. Remember always the words spoken by Alexander Hamilton in regards to the price of liberty and what it inspires. There's a certain enthusiasm in liberty that makes human nature rise above itself in acts of bravery and heroism.